What if I told you that Canada is standing at a historic crossroads, one decision away from breaking free from decades of quiet dependence on a superpower? What if the fighter jets guarding Canadian skies aren't just weapons, but chains? And what if, for the first time in a generation, Ottawa is seriously considering unlocking those chains, even if it means saying no to Washington? In October 2025, something unusual happened in Canadian politics, something bold, something that made people in Washington sit up and pay attention. Canada's Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, publicly acknowledged what critics had whispered for years. Canada is not getting fair value from the F-35 program. Those words didn't just challenge a contract, they challenged a system. Canada joined the F-35 project back in the 1990s as a founding partner, drawn in by promises of shared technology, industrial growth, and long-term economic benefits. Billions were committed with the belief that Canadian aerospace would stand shoulder to shoulder with the world's best. But decades later, the results told a different story. Most high-value contracts stayed in the United States. Core software, mission systems, and sensitive technologies remained tightly controlled. Canadian firms were largely confined to secondary manufacturing roles, building components without gaining real ownership over innovation. Canada paid heavily, yet the strategic and technological rewards never fully arrived. That growing frustration reached a breaking point in 2025. Almost immediately after Joly's remarks, Sweden's defense giant Saab stepped forward with a proposal that shook the entire conversation. Not vague promises, but a concrete offer: a full Gripen-E fighter jet production ecosystem inside Canada. Thousands of high-skill aerospace jobs, local suppliers, Canadian engineers trained on advanced systems, real technology transfer, not just assembly work. This wasn't just about replacing one aircraft with another, it was about control. The Gripen is built on a completely different philosophy. Designed by a nation that survived the Cold War through strategic neutrality, Sweden engineered its fighter jets to operate independently without reliance on foreign approval. Open software architecture, flexible weapons integration, freedom to upgrade, modify, and deploy without asking permission. For Canada, this idea cuts deep. The question is no longer which jet is faster or stealthier. The question is whether Canada wants to own its defense decisions or continue renting them. And that question is only getting louder. This debate goes far beyond numbers on a spreadsheet or technical comparisons between aircraft. At its core, it is about how nations define sovereignty in a world where power is increasingly subtle, embedded not in armies alone, but in software, supply chains, and permissions. Modern fighter jets are no longer just metal and engines, they are flying networks. Whoever controls the software controls the aircraft. And in the case of the F-35, that control does not fully rest with the nations that fly it. Critical updates, mission data files, system diagnostics, all flow through systems ultimately overseen by the United States. Ownership exists on paper, but operational independence remains limited. Gripen represents a radically different idea. Its design assumes that smaller and mid-sized nations must be able to fight, maintain, and adapt without external approval. It was built for dispersion, rapid turnaround, and resilience. The jet can be serviced by small crews, refueled quickly, and returned to the air with minimal infrastructure, an approach shaped by decades of planning for worst-case scenarios. For a country like Canada, with vast distances, remote regions, and extreme climates, this philosophy resonates strongly. The mission isn't global power projection, it's persistent presence, it's sovereignty patrols. It's ensuring that no corner of national airspace is left unguarded simply because operations are too expensive or too complex to sustain. Cost matters here more than prestige. When aircraft are cheaper to operate, pilots fly more, crews train harder. Readiness becomes routine rather than exceptional. In long-term defense planning, sustainability often outweighs raw capability. But perhaps the most uncomfortable question is psychological rather than technical. Is Canada ready to accept the responsibility that comes with true independence? Because independence isn't just freedom, it's accountability. It means building domestic expertise, managing risks internally, making hard decisions without guaranteed backup. It means stepping out of the shadow of established systems and trusting national capacity. That's why this choice feels so heavy. It isn't about choosing Sweden over America. It isn't even about Gripen versus F-35. It's about whether Canada sees itself as a permanent junior partner in global security or as a confident, self-reliant power capable of shaping its own future. And that question, once asked openly, cannot be ignored. There's also a deeper economic layer to this debate that rarely makes headlines. Defense procurement isn't just about security. It's one of the fastest ways nations build advanced industrial ecosystems. Aerospace manufacturing pulls in metallurgy, software engineering, electronics, AI, advanced logistics, and high-precision machining. Countries that master it don't just defend themselves better, they innovate faster across their entire economy. For decades, Canada has played an awkward role in this system. Rich in resources, rich in talent, yet often positioned as a supplier rather than a builder. Raw materials flow outward, finished systems flow back in at many times the cost. The F-35 model reinforced this pattern. Participation without control, investment without ownership. A domestic fighter production line would challenge that pattern directly. It would force Canada to develop long-term skills instead of short-term contracts. Universities would align research with real manufacturing needs. Small and mid-sized firms would move up the value chain. Knowledge would stay inside the country rather than leaking outward through foreign intellectual property restrictions. This is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable for established powers. Because once a country learns how to build complex systems independently, it becomes harder to influence, harder to pressure, and harder to sideline. Economic sovereignty translates into political confidence, and political confidence reshapes alliances. That doesn't mean alliances disappear, it means they become balanced. Partners cooperate by choice, not by necessity. Critics argue that such ambitions are risky, that Canada is better off relying on proven frameworks rather than experimenting with independence. They warn of cost overruns, integration challenges, and diplomatic fallout. These concerns are not imaginary. Every path forward carries risk. But so does standing still. In a world moving toward fragmentation, where supply chains are weaponized and technology access is increasingly politicized, dependence itself becomes a vulnerability. The cheapest option today may become the most expensive tomorrow if access is restricted or priorities change. That's why this moment feels different. It's not driven by ideology or emotion, but by calculation. A recognition that the rules of global power are shifting, that resilience matters as much as alignment, and that sovereignty in the 21st century isn't declared, it's engineered. Whether Canada is ready to take that step remains uncertain, but the fact that the question is being asked at all suggests something fundamental is changing. And now, the final question doesn't belong to politicians, generals, or corporations. It belongs to you. Because decisions like these aren't made in isolation, they are shaped by public awareness, by citizens who ask uncomfortable questions, by viewers who refuse to accept easy narratives. If you've stayed with this story until the end, that already says something important about you. It means you're not here just for headlines, you're here for understanding, for depth, for truth beyond talking points. And that matters. In an age where attention is short and opinions are prepackaged, choosing to think critically is an act of independence in itself. Nations don't become strong only through weapons or wealth. They become strong when their people are informed, engaged, and willing to look beyond the surface. Whether Canada chooses one aircraft or another, one partner or several, the real issue goes deeper. It's about defining national strength in a world that's rapidly changing, a world where power isn't measured only by military hardware, but by self-reliance, resilience, and the courage to question long-standing assumptions. If conversations like this resonate with you, if you believe geopolitics, economics, and strategy deserve more than shallow coverage, then this channel is for you. Here, we don't shout slogans, we connect dots. We explore the stories behind the stories. So if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications. Not because an algorithm demands it, but because staying informed is one of the few real advantages individuals still control. To everyone watching, thank you. Your time is valuable, and choosing to spend it here means more than numbers on a screen. This community exists because of thoughtful viewers like you, people who care about how the world works and how it should work. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and never stop questioning the narratives placed in front of you, because the future doesn't belong to those who follow it blindly, it belongs to those who understand it.